This here. I have no idea what this is about real quick, but you know. You quite literally made a video supporting one of the most horrific human beings to ever experiment on poor, innocent children. Your words mean absolutely nothing. NyaraVT, you and everyone who supports you deserve to have horrible things happen to you. What is this? Of course, the T-Man is still out here clinging to false allegations and spreading more lies. Trans kids exist and supporting them isn't child abuse. Shoving them into torture camps to fix them is. Of course, this horror responds to the pro-child abuse pedophile Nyara. God damn. And this Sora AI is getting really good. Really? Did something else happen? How John Money proved trans people right. Oh god. This is a segment from my Twitch stream. In this video I talk about John Money's cruel experiment and what it actually proves. Your gender ideology or some shit, I don't know. What the fuck? Didn't the activists for years try to distance themselves from John Money, much like pro-abortion freaks distance themselves from Margaret Sanger? Hilarious that this mofo is just full-on saying the horrific shit out loud. What the fuck? Who the fuck is... Oh nah, I got typhoon warnings. God damn! Do you live in an anime or something? Holy shit! John Money. Who the fuck is that? John Money. Wikipedia. No, I don't need Wikipedia. Some other shit. David Raymer and John Money. Hold on, let me show you this. Fuck you, cookies. It's the third time this week. God damn, buddy. David Raymer, John Money, gender reassignment controversy. The Joanne case. In the mid-1960s, psychologist John Money encouraged the gender reassignment of David Reimer, who was born a biological male, but suffered irreparable damage to his penis as an infant. Born in 1965 as Bruce Reimer, his penis was irreparably damaged during infancy due to a failed circumcision. After encouragement from Money, Reimer's parents decided to raise Reimer as a girl. Damn, okay, they just decided that? Alright, bro. Reimer underwent surgery as an infant to construct a rudimentary female genitals, and was given female hormones during puberty. Wow. That's dope? Oh man, no, it's not. During puberty. During childhood, Reimer was never told he was biologically male and regularly visited Money, who was tracked the progress of his gender reassignment. Reimer unknowingly acted as an experimental subject in Money's controversial investigation, which he called the Joanne case. The case provided results that were used to justify thousands of sex reassignment surgeries for cases of children with reproductive abnormalities. Despite his upbringing, Reimer rejected the female identity as a young teenager and began living as a male. He suffered severe depression throughout his life, which culminated in his suicide at 38 years old. Reimer and his public statements about the trauma of his transition brought attention to gender identity and called into question the sex reassignment of infants and children. Of course! What? Oh no, not this story. This says, what the fuck? So, first, the parents forced it up on him. Let's be clear here, forced it on him. Doctor went through with it. That's gotta go against some kind of moral ethics code or whatever. This is gonna make you glow, everyone. God damn. Both of them took their own lives in the end. What the fuck? Bruce Peter Reimer was born on 22nd August 1965 in Winnipeg, Ontario, to Janet and Ron Reimer. At 6 months of age, both Reimer and his identical twin Brian were diagnosed with phimosis, a condition in which the foreskin of the penis cannot retract, inhibiting regular urination. Can't you just, like, cut that open? It's just foreskin, right? it's needed here, so of course, like in a doctor way, like professional, but on 27th April 1966, Reimer underwent circumcision, a common procedure in which a physician surgically removes the foreskin of the penis. Usually, physicians performing circumcision use a scalpel or other sharp instruments to remove foreskin. However, Reimer's physician used the unconventional technique of cauterization or burning to... Wait, I have the slight suspicion they used this kind of technique on purpose because you can hide that it was not an accident very well and just say it was an accident. This stinks. Now that's illegal. Holy fuck. Or burning to cause tissue death. Reimer's circumcision failed. Yeah, it's fucking fire. Reimer's brother did not undergo some circumcision and his phimosis healed naturally. Wait, it can heal? While the true extent of Reimer's penile damage was unclear, the overwhelming majority of biographers and journalists maintained that it was either totally severed or otherwise damaged beyond the possibility of function. It gets worse? In 1967, Reimer's parents sought the help of John Money, a psychologist and sexologist who worked at the Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore, Maryland in the mid-20th century. Money helped establish views on the psychology of gender identities and roles. In his academic work, Money argued in favor of the increasingly mainstream idea of that gender was a societal construct. Malleable from an early age, he started that being raised as a female was in Reimer's interest and recommended sexual reassignment surgery at the time. Infants born with abnormal or intersex genitalia commonly received such interventions. No, I think they should just first live a little bit, see what they want at a reasonable age. What the fuck is this? People just deciding for you. What the hell? Following their consultation with Money, Reimer's parents decided to raise Reimer as a girl. Physicians at the Johns Hopkins Hospital removed Reimer's tests and damaged penis and constructed vestigial vulva and a vaginal canal in their place. The physicians also opened a small hole in Reimer's lower abdomen for urination. Allowing his gender reassignment surgery, Reimer was given the first name Brenda. His parents raised him as a girl. He received estrogen during adolescence and to promote the development of breasts. Throughout his childhood, Reimer was not informed about his male biology. Holy fucking shit. Brace for horror. This gets worse even more? I mean, balls could heal when it got hit by a soccer ball. No, it's not that kind of damage, my guy. This typhoon hasn't left for the past 8 hours. God damn. Throughout his childhood, Reimer received annual checkups from Money. His twin brother was also part of Money's research on sexual development and gender in children. As identical twins growing up in the same family, the Reimer brothers were what Money considered ideal case subjects for a psychology study on gender. Reimer was the first documented case of sex reassignment of a child born developmentally normal, while Reimer's brother was a control subject who shared Reimer's genetic makeup, intrauterine space, and household. What the fuck? The not real Sonic channel. Hello. Good news, I have 112 subs. Whoa! Congrats, buddy! Hell yeah! We're reading horror stories, so, that are true, by the way. So please, if you have a weak stomach, don't listen in. During this twins' psychiatric visit with money, and as a part of his research, Reimer and his twin brother were directed to inspect one another's genital. So you put the gender-changed sister and brother that are twins in front of each other completely naked, when maybe they weren't used to that. And our genitals engage in behavior resembling sexual intercourse. Not, oh my god, what the fuck? Reimer claimed that much of Money's treatment involved the forced reenactment of sexual positions and motions with his brother in some exercise. The brothers rehearsed missionary position. What the fuck? With thrusting motions? I'm sorry, what? Which Money justified as the rehearsal of healthy childhood sexual exploration. In a Rolling Stone interview, Reimer recalled that at least once Money photographed those exercises. He has CP. Money also made the brothers inspect one another's pubic areas. What the hell? Reimer stated that Money observed those exercises both alone and with as many as 6 What? Reimer recounted anger and verbal abuse from Money if he or his brother resisted orders. What? In contrast to the calm and scientific demeanor Money presented to their parents, Reimer and his brother underwent Money's treatment at preschool and grade school. What? That is... Oh, this gets more and more... Money described Reimer's transition as successful and claimed that Reimer's girlish behavior stood in stark contrast to his brother's boyishness. Money reported on Reimer's case as the John Joanne case, leaving out Reimer's real name. For over a decade, Reimer and his brother unknowingly provided data that, according to biographers and the Intersex Society of North America, was used to reinforce Money's theories on gender fluidity and provided justification for thousands of sex reassignment surgeries for children with abnormal... That is disgusting! Oh my god. Right. Contrary to Money's notes, Reimer reports that as a child he experienced severe gender dysphoria, a condition in which someone experiences distress as a result of their assigned gender. Reimer reported that he did not identify as a girl and resented Money's visits for treatment. At the age of 13, Reimer threatened to commit suicide if his parents took him to Money on the next annual visit. Bullied by peers in school for his masculine traits, Reimer claimed that despite receiving female hormones, wearing dresses, and having his interests directed toward typically female norms, he always felt that he was a boy. In 1980, at the age of 15, Reimer's father told him the truth about his birth and the subsequent procedures. Following the revelation, Reimer assumed a male identity, taking the first name David. By age 21, Reimer had received testosterone therapy and surgeries to remove his breasts and reconstruct a penis. He married Jane Fontaine, a single mother of 3, on 22nd September 1990. Holy shit. Even though I've heard this read out 2-3 times before, I still want to vomit, understandably. Yeah, absolutely. God damn, I'm sorry you have to hear it a second time. I don't even want to make you hear it a third or fourth time. God fucking damn it, what is this? Oh my god, I have the urge to glow like a quasar every time I hear this. Holy fuck! In adulthood, Reimer reported that he suffered psychological trauma due to Money's experiments, which Money had used to justify sexual reassignment surgery for children with intersex or damaged genitalia since the 1970s. In the mid-1990s, Reimer met Milton Diamond, a psychologist at the University of Hawaii in Honolulu, Hawaii, and an academic rival of Money. Reimer participated in a follow-up study conducted by Diamond, in which Diamond cataloged the failures of Reimer's transition. Hold on, why are these therapists called Money and Diamond? Both high monetary value, right? What is going on? I have several questions in this fucking story that probably can't be answered, but holy fuck. So the parents were very low IQ. They have treated their child terribly, horribly, made the wrong decision at multiple turns, and through their decisions, while they were not aware of it, forced their children into, what do you call it if siblings have intercourse? Fucking fuck. Shit. Anyway, yeah, force them to kind of reenact sex stuff at a very early age. Incest, yeah, reenact incest basically. Probably without the part that's considered sex, but god fucking damn it. How? And in 1997, Reimer began speaking publicly about his experiences, beginning with his participation in Diamond's study. Reimer's first interview appeared in the December 1997 issue of Rolling Stone magazine, in interviews and a later book about his experience. Reimer described his interactions with Money as torturous and abusive. Yeah, of course. Accordingly, Reimer claimed he developed a lifelong distrust of his hospitals and medical professionals. Yeah, I would too. God fucking damn. With those reports, Reimer caused a multifaceted controversy over Money's methods, honesty in a data reporting, and the general ethics of sex reassignment surgery on infants and children. Reimer's description of his childhood conflicted with the scientific consensus about sex reassignment at the time. According to Nova, Money led scientists to believe that the John Joanne case demonstrated an unreservedly successful sex transition. Reimer's parents later blamed Money's methods and alleged, of course they would blame him instead of, themselves. I hope John Money is suffering in hell. Me too. And alleged Money's methods and alleged surreptitiousness for the psychological illness of their sons. Although the notes of a former graduate student in Money's lab indicate that Reimer's parents dishonestly represented the transition's success to Money and his co-workers, Reimer was further alleged by supporters of Money to have incorrectly recalled that. Yeah. Just tell the victim he's not a victim. Just victim blame. Yeah, victim blaming. That's what this is. Holy fuck. To Money and his co-workers, Reimer was further alleged by supporters of Money to have incorrectly recalled the details of his treatment on Reimer's case. Money publicly dismissed his criticism as anti-feminist and anti-trans bias. Now, where have I heard this shit happen in today's world? But according to his colleagues, was personally ashamed of the failure. What the fuck? In his early 20s, Reimer attempted to commit suicide twice. According to Reimer, his adult family life was strained by marital problems and employment difficulty. Reimer's brother, who suffered from depression and schizophrenia, died from an antidepressant drug overdose in July of 2002. On 2nd May 2004, Reimer's wife told him that she wanted a divorce. 2 days later, at the age of 38, Reimer committed suicide by firearm. Reimer money and the case became subjects of numerous books and documentaries. Following the expose, Reimer also became somewhat iconic in popular culture, being directly referenced or alluded to in the television shows Chicago Hope, Law and Order, and Mental. The BBC series Horizon covered his story in 2 episodes: The Boy Who Was Tuned Into a Girl, 2000, and Dr. Money and the Boy with No Penis, 2004. Canadian rock group Weather Fans wrote a Hymn of the Medical Oddity about Reimer, and the New York-based Ensemble Studio Theater production Boy was based on Reimer's life. And sources. How John Money proved trans people right. Nyara is a disgusting piece of shit. If there is any takeaway from this, use this as motivation to better yourself and educate yourself so this can never happen again. Work out to get stronger and stop this from happening if you see it. Glow talk, glow talk, glow talk. Let's not have another situation like this ever happen again. I agree. I am very physically shaken up about this, actually. This is beyond disgusting, and I think for the next few segments that are gonna come after this, I'm gonna close my window, because this is dangerous territory I'm going into, based on what I've read so far. This is gonna be very disgusting, because I want to see if I can find that video. Oh, it's up. It's still up. It's still up. All right. Yeah, let's, are you guys ready? John Money died from complications from Parkinson's in 2006. Couldn't happen to be a better person. Couldn't happen to a better person, goddamn. All right.
People use that as like an invalidation for like trans people, when in reality it's basically pushing the idea that you could teach a boy that they are a girl if you are just pointing to.
We read just now that that boy, even while being taught he's a girl, always felt like a boy because he was born a boy. So everything you just said, Yara, is invalid.
Their genitalia, and you're like, oh, you have these phenotypical sex characteristics. That means you're a girl, or that means you're a boy. You should act like one. You should be socialized as one. So a long time ago, I responded.
John made a thesis and proved it wrong with his experiment, which actually proved us correct. Maybe actually look into his work before you show everyone that you are an uneducated weirdo. What he proved was that the assigned sex at birth is the correct one in that case study. I'm sorry, but that's what that single case study did. It proved that the boy who was born a boy was made into a girl before he had ever noticed anything, before he gained a consciousness, and still became a boy at the end. I'm sorry. This is This is some stupid fucking logic.
comment. I'm not entirely sure what the context of it was. Actually, let me.
Again, I believe dysphoria exists. There's actual trans people who were born in the wrong body. However, John Money did not prove shit. He did not prove shit for trans people. That was actually a big fucking backstab for every actual trans person. So, yeah. Let's talk about fucking shooting yourself in the foot, right?
Let me dig in
God
deep
fucking damn it.
and find the context of it. Let me find the context of everything. Jesus Christ. I've been enjoying the lack of drama recently, so I didn't want to talk more about Kirsche Bade quote tweeting a white supremacist that wants to force his Christian nationalistic ideology onto everyone with something so disgusting as just too much. That was all.
First, America is a Christian country. Its laws and its amendment were written with Christianity in mind. That is fact. Now, you don't have to be Christian to live there, but you should assimilate to the culture. John Money was a monster, is a monster.
There was this tweet from Kirsche.
Small
Quote
correction.
tweeting Matt Walsh being like, oh, the BLM movement was killed by body cameras. This person was like, you're an actual pedophilic groomer. Nobody should ever take you seriously. You make normal trans people look bad by being every negative stereotype you can. One
True.
time I replied with, so children can't consent to life-saving medical treatment? Okay, gotcha. Why do you force gender reassignment?
Again, life-saving. Fine. Gender reassignment surgeries shouldn't happen to kids, first and foremost because they're not developed enough and that will fuck up and stunt their growth. Second, life-threatening, of course they can. The parents should as well. And no, if they have parents, the parents decide up to a certain age. So even then, this is beyond stupid.
Babies. I have no issues with gender-affirming surgeries.
Intersex babies, what the fuck?
To prevent the physical and social developmental disorders that would be tied to hermaphroditism. Treating a mutation or illness is different from inflicting them. I mean, you know, by that logic, if you think that like intersex infants, you know, they have like physical or social developmental disorders, that would in theory mean that if you're trans and if you have severe gender dysphoria, you are treating the physical and social developmental disorder by using these things. And it just went on to gender and sex are identical terms. The only attempt at the distinction is research by two widely discredited child abusers. Look up John Money for what you're basing this
he
garbage
put
off of. People just
Wikipedia.
don't understand the teachings of John Money. His abusive experiment literally proved that gender and sex are different things. So this person.
He didn't prove shit. Again, this experiment failed miserably. The subjects killed themselves, and he forced fucking incest on them in front of colleagues, multiple people. This is beyond disgusting.
With factually incorrect yet again. It's genuinely the truth. If you're too lazy to look it up, I can link him. The first time a right-winger is using Wikipedia as a source, that's incredible. This lie was.
Yeah, I think. Okay, I gotta give your you know, Wikipedia stupid.
Concocted in the 50s by these genuine monsters abusing children. So I replied with, John Money had a thesis and proved it wrong with his experiment, which actually proved us correct. Maybe actually look into his work before you.
He tried to prove that gender is a societal construct, and his experiment failed, in which case he proved that it wasn't a societal construct with that experiment specifically. Like, what are we talking about here? Who were underage as well? Yes! Fucking elementary school kids. God fucking damn it.
show everyone that you're an uneducated weirdo. So I had some weirdo who was like, I had Nyara block me and defended John Money or something. And then this person was like, found it, had to check my archives, :3. And Greg said was, ain't no way this motherfucker was defending John Money. It's like,
Greg has been harassing and stalking me and Anna Valens to slander us for a long time now. He also brags about the money Twitter pays him for it. Oh my god. The slander, absolutely not. There is very little slander to you. The slanderous ones are you and Anna Valens. I've seen it firsthand, the amount of lies you guys tell. Fuck you.
I wasn't.
God fucking damn.
How was I defending that? John Money had a thesis and proved it wrong. John Money wasn't even the first dude to study trans people. Magnus Hirschfeld was doing trans surgeries like 50 years before him. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's true. But that's why they are like pushing the idea that like transgenderism is like a Jewish invention. He would have been on their side. Yeah, his entire thesis. Like I responded with John Money had a theory about how gender is determined by genitalia to justify cruel gender reassignment surgeries.
Did we read the same fucking thing? Sought the help of John Money, a psychologist and sexologist who worked at the Johns Hopkins Hospital, Baltimore, Maryland in the mid-20th century. Money helped establish views on the psychology of gender identities and roles. In his academic work, Money argued in favor of the increasingly mainstream idea that gender was a societal construct malleable from an early age. He literally did the opposite of what you just said, Nyara!
On intersex infants, about how gender is determined by genitalia to justify cruel gender reassignment surgeries on intersex infants with ambiguous genitalia. This was proven wrong. He like invented a field. He had like a thesis and then he invented the field of like, what was it? Sexology or something. So his experiment was basically to like justify that like if you have like an intersex child with ambiguous genitalia, whatever you pick and then you socialize them according to their phenotypical sex characteristic, then they are going to develop this way. In order to test this theory, because he couldn't test it, he was just like, I don't know, he just like came up with this hypothesis and everybody like took his word for it and like celebrated, and he was like on tour and there was like no evidence for it. It was just like he just came up with it. And then there was the boy
I cannot words unless I want to get into trouble.
Was being botched, and the parents saw John Money on TV, so they called him up. It's like, oh, we have 2 twin boys, and one had a botched circumcision, and we don't know what to do with it. Like, we can't raise him as like, you know, a crippled boy. His thesis would suggest that like, oh, if he would do the genital surgery and just raise
Was there any information at all to the parents what they thought? Like, do we have any information on the parents? Is there? Because Nyara says a whole lot of things about the parents right there. I don't want to defend the parents. Oh god, no. But, you know, this paints a picture again. Is there information I can look up about the parents? Anyone know about that?
As a girl, then he would feel like a girl and like be okay with being socialized as a girl. And like in his cruel experiment, it was like making both undress and then being like, oh, what does your brother have? What do you have? You're a girl. You should act like a girl. You should be okay with being a girl. And the thing is like, he didn't want to wear dresses. He didn't feel comfortable being socialized as a girl because he wasn't a girl. Like his gender identity wasn't that of a girl, it was that of a boy, and it was just like really abusive and like basically a similar.
So you are misconstruing trans identity with him being born a boy and feeling as a boy. I'm sorry, but the fuck is going on? John Money was in favor of your theory that gender is just a social construct.
Thing of like what cishet people, like conservatives, do during like conversion therapy, right? It's like, oh, you do not have like the proper genitalia, you should act this way, and that just didn't work. It was just like a really cruel experiment, and it was baseless. It was just like the hypothesis. He made up the field. He was being like celebrated as like, like the hero in this field because like he made it up. And now people use that as like an invalidation for like trans people, when in reality it's basically pushing the idea that you could teach a boy that they are a girl. That is just what it is, right? That is what the hypothesis was. If you adjust someone's genitalia, or like if you are just
That's
pointing to their genitalia and you're like, oh, you have
lot.
these phenotypical sex characteristics, that means you're a girl, or that means you're
But that's
a boy.
not true. He had masculine traits throughout his childhood. That's not true. You're just talking about one or two of the things that are actually happening. There's so much misinformation in this.
You should act like one. You should be socialized as one. If you don't feel comfortable with that, if you don't resonate with that, if you feel dysphoria, if you feel distress, that is just something that has to be drilled out of you. You just gotta get abused harder. I really wish David's parents waited for penile reconstruction to develop more. We had first surgery of that nature in 1936, so surely there would have been someone who could have helped him. If I recall correctly, John Money wanted to do a second surgery, a second genital reconstruction surgery on David, and he knew, like, he didn't want that because he knew that if he would...
I'm not addicted to speedrunning. Also, me watching a vid about speedrunning getting cancer. I remember when I was a kid and I didn't know any better and just thought everyone had a wiener. I had that age too.
Would get that, then there was no turning back. John Money was like basically trying to force him to go through that because he thought that like if he had like another surgery, then finally he would realize that he's actually a girl. And I also know that like the parents weren't even like involved. They didn't know what John Money was actually doing to both of the boys. And when it finally came out that like, hey, David is born male, born a boy, the brother didn't take it well because he was constantly under the impression that like he has to protect his little sister because he was being abused too by going through all of that, and he had like engraved into him that he has like a little sister that he needs to protect and take care of and so on. And then it turns out that like his little sister is actually his little brother. For some reason he just like didn't take it well because he felt a certain way, like a protective nature over another man, basically. I will never defend this. It is crazy to come to the conclusion that because I said that like, oh, John Money had a thesis, made like a field for it, proved it wrong with his experiment. Like it
Yeah, but you're wrong in what he was trying to prove. You're wrong in you're wrong in saying he tried to prove that your assigned sex is your sex. Because the assigned sex was boy. He tried to change that into woman through surgery, which we are not in support of. We don't want children to have surgery. Funny thing is, when I was given the talk by parents when I was old enough, unless they thought my parents were gaslighting me about a woman having different parts. God damn.
It basically shows that you cannot abuse a boy to be a girl. No matter how hard you try, you cannot turn a boy into a girl. So you cannot turn a trans...
but you can trick them into it. Oh! but you can trick them into it for a period of time. Oh, what is happening right now? Oh no! Man. Nyara is doing more... the fuck. Oh my god. Nyara doing more bad than good for any of the trans communities. Because no matter what you say, I'm actually pro. Well, I mean, I want people to live as what they want to be, or what they are for some people. Because people have difference in meaning. Honestly, I really don't care. You do what you want. As long as you don't push me into it. Yes, let's gaslight people, Nyara. Like, just let people experience their life for themselves. Let them decide and feel what they feel for themselves. Don't tell them, oh, you're not necessarily this or you're not necessarily that. Just let them experience it. Because that's what life is about. Struggle to find your place. Right? That's always been the case. And some people just want to throw stones in your way. Right? And some people want to use children as their entryway to being accepted. That won't cause incredibly dangerous problems later on. Fucking hell. Look. I am against teaching children that they are a specific thing or not a specific thing, right? I'm absolutely against that. Parents are responsible for their children. Teachers are only supposed to teach them how to think and other stuff like history, math, stuff like that. They have no business in trying to raise these children. None. Teaching valuable life lessons like forgiveness and don't use physical force first thing in an argument. Stuff like that. Yeah, teachers are there for that. But not in how they view the world. Absolutely not. That's the parents. And when there's a bad parent, there's something called CPS, Child Protective Services. What if physical force actually works? Well, good for you. Then you're in an apocalyptic event. But this is beyond ridiculous. Nyara is trying to say it's okay to teach children, hey, you're not a guy, you're not a woman necessarily. Instead of just letting them figure it out, they're trying to implant... No, I'm just in school. Okay, that works fine. Sometimes. No, they're trying to implant ideas in children that are absolutely harmful. Especially Anna
Girl into a cis boy. It's just not possible. You cannot turn a trans boy into a cis girl. What trans people are doing, using like gender affirming, gender affirming care,
University
social
stole 28.
and so on,
Hell yeah.
is turning a boy into a boy, turning a girl into a girl. But these people, obviously, nobody actually cares about like the facts of the thing. It's just about like feelings. And then
yeah, I can see that you don't care about the facts.
And they're leaving out details, and then they're making a YouTube video.
Yeah, you're right.
That's getting boosted to like hundreds of thousands of people. And then it's just being spreaded as like, oh, the transgenderism was invented by John Money, who abused a boy and taught the boy that he's a girl. It's just missing the point, right? It's like they're so close to getting it, but they just can't. Like they don't want to admit to like this last percentile because their whole rhetoric would fall apart, and then it wouldn't be as lucrative to like push this propaganda. The people who are like understanding that, John Money wasn't the father of transgenderism. When they say like transgenderism, they're talking about trans people, they're making it seem like some sort of like ideology. Then they're going to like Martin Seefeld, who was a little bit more progressive, but still was also like, if you're a trans woman, you have to be like sterilized, or, he was like pro putting that into like passports that you're like trans and stuff like that, putting you on a list. Oh, if you want to be a real woman, you need to like medically transition type of thing is like 100 years
Well,
ago.
if you have a penis, you can't say you're a woman, you're trans. If you identify as a woman and you have a penis, you're trans. That's it. That's fact. As you said, you can't turn a boy into a cis girl. You said that not few seconds ago, didn't you?
Passports that you're like, you know, he was like if you're a trans woman, you have to be like, but still to like Magnus Hirschfeld, they're making it seem like some sort of like ideology transgenderism. They're talking the father of transgender, ending that, you know, John Money was this propaganda. The whole rhetoric would fall admit to like this last person just can't sing the point, right? And taught the boy that he's a it's like, oh, the transgenderism was invented by John Money, who abused a boy and taught the boy that he's a girl. It's just missing the point, right? It's like they're so close to getting it, but they just can't, like they don't want to admit to like this last percentile because their whole rhetoric would fall apart and then it wouldn't be as lucrative to like push this propaganda. The people who are like understanding that, you know, John Money wasn't the father of transgenderism. When they say like transgenderism, they're talking about trans people, you know, they're making it seem like some sort of like ideology. Then they're going to like Magnus Hirschfeld, who was a little bit more progressive, but still was also like, if you're a trans woman, you have to be like sterilized, or, you know, he was like pro putting that into like passports that you're like trans and stuff like that, putting you on a list. Oh, if you want to be a real woman, you need to like medically transition type of thing. It's like 100 years ago, right? A lot of things changed in 100 years, and I wish the research wouldn't have been destroyed. Imagine where we would be right now with like trans healthcare and like societal stuff.
Can't find it.
Didn't burn it down.
All right.
Fall apart, and then it wouldn't be as lucrative to like push this propaganda. They're leaving out details, and then they're making their
leaving out
video
details, right?
about it. That's getting boosted to like hundreds of thousands of people, and then it's just being spreaded as like, oh, the transgenderism was invented by John Money.
Not
and
this.
Of the thing is just about like feelings, and then they're mischaracterizing these things, and they're leaving out
You
details.
respect the elder Goldwater Republican who has snuck into university.
And then they're making their YouTube video about it. That's getting picked up, a, you know, trans boy into a cis girl. What trans people is not possible. You cannot turn into a cis boy. It's just not possible. You cannot choose a boy to be a girl. No matter how hard you try, you cannot turn a boy into a girl. So you cannot turn a trans girl into a cis boy.
Oh wow. It's almost like you can't turn a trans man into a cis woman. Huh. Oh, imagine that. Yeah. What was this about almost getting it? Yeah, all right. This is NyaraVT. We still give, you know, whatever.